All right, we're live.
Yep, we're live. Well, welcome in, everybody. We're going to wait about another 60 seconds, and then we're going to kick this thing off. We appreciate you giving us your time today. All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining us today. Thank you for giving us time, as I mentioned before. Today's topic is really talking about something that's become a real crisis inside of the American transportation marketplace, which is the parking shortage we have for commercial trucks that drive across the contiguous 48 states. We appreciate you joining us today. The title of this webinar is How Warehouses, Truck Parking, and Safety Leaders Can Transform the Supply Chain. And we're going to talk all about how the impact of warehouses and distribution facilities can be a part of the solution that we're having in the marketplace, which is a real challenge for profitability for American transportation companies and even warehousing. This webinar is really the brainchild of the guy in the big picture here, Mr. Chris Kane, one of the most notable guys in all of transportation. A friend of mine and a guy that I looked to for a long time when he owned Kane is Able, helping supply chain leaders in the marketplace, and now he's the president of the American Chain of Warehouses. And this is a brainchild of his. He said we really want to get this information out to warehouse owners and supply chain center owners to help them think more creatively about what could help them create better profitability in their locations. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate that. Your leadership is important to this. And joining us is the guy who knows more about truck parking than anybody else in North America, is Mr. Evan Shelley, the CEO and co-founder of the Truck Parking Club. So really appreciate Evan being a part of this. And Evan, thanks for joining. And I'm going to be your host. I'm Brent Hutto. I'm the Chief Relationship Officer for Truck Parking Club. And we're excited about this because we've done a ton of research over the last few months on the impact that warehousing and shipping facilities can have on solving a lot of the inefficiencies that go on in transportation in North America. So I'm going to kick this thing off with this great picture next. Mr. Kane.
Okay, thanks, Brent. Thanks for those kind words. Yeah, so that's a picture of me when I got my commercial driver's license at age 18. You could drive within the state of Pennsylvania at age 18, but you couldn't drive interstate. And at age 18, Brent was looking to go parking with his girlfriend. I was actually looking for truck parking back at age 18. So that's how long I've looked to solve this problem. But I'm excited to be with you guys today. I think it's a great combination of warehouse people working together with truck parking, and I'm anxious to get the message out to our members and all warehousemen across the country.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks again, as I mentioned, for your leadership in this. This is your idea to kind of communicate this and your idea on what truck parking can do to benefit warehouse owners. So we'll talk all about that today. What we'll cover today is the state of truck parking. Mr. Shelley will kind of walk through that, and Chris will give his creative thoughts on that. We'll talk about why it's a safety issue and how that can help and how warehouses can be a part of that. We'll talk about use cases for warehouses. We're going to show you actual warehouses that are in the system and benefiting from it, and really the impact that warehousing can have on solving this problem, which is a massive problem ever since 2018 when ELDs became part of the North American transportation marketplace. We'll talk about how you can be part of the solution and how it'll benefit you greatly, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. So that's what we'll cover. We keep this pretty live and active here at Truck Parking Club and American Chain of Warehouses. So it'll be a nice dialogue back and forth, and I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
All right. So, Mr. Shelley, talk to us a little bit about the mission statement of how you came to think about Truck Parking Club and the problem that needed to be solved.
Yeah. So what we do is Truck Parking Club provides parking for truckers by monetizing vacant properties for landowners across the U.S. in order to help solve the truck parking shortage. That's why I started the company is to leverage a marketplace to create more parking in a very fast, scalable manner to alleviate the truck parking shortage. And the mission statement we have at the company is to help truckers save time and fuel by efficiently finding and reserving truck parking across the U.S. So everything we do at the company is aligned with that. We want to create tons of truck parking locations across the U.S. within our marketplace to make sure that drivers save time and fuel by being able to efficiently find and reserve truck parking.
Yeah, well said, well said. So we wanted to make sure you understood sort of our heart at Truck Parking Club and kind of where this thing's going, and why Chris gave us the honor and opportunity to be a part of this. All right, so it's a big problem. It's a bigger than big problem, as my old CEO used to say. So talk a little bit about this, Evan, and Chris. If you got any comments, just jump in there.
Sure.
Yeah, so we commissioned a research paper that really looked at the problem, the cost to the trucking industry because of the shortage of truck parking, and found that it's over $100 billion a year between productivity and circuity, or extra miles driven, driving around looking for truck parking. And the research paper went into the fact that we need over 1 million truck parking spaces, more spaces than we already have, between truck stops, rest areas, locations on Truck Parking Club, and truck parking operators. We need over 1 million more spaces. 1.7 million is what the research paper came up with. And why does it cost the industry over $100 billion? Back to what I mentioned about circuity: 56 minutes per day per driver spent driving around looking for truck parking. Huge waste in route optimization for drivers, for carriers, and owner operators. And why is this a problem ultimately? And ultimately why I started the company. It's very hard to get zoned for truck parking. And then once you do find a parcel that is zoned correctly, or you luckily get it through the municipality, the cost of development around that is immense. In a lot of situations, ROI doesn't make sense. We know that a lot of we have a lot of truck stops that are actively building more truck parking spaces, but even for them, the ROI has to make sense. It has to make sense to be able to build that spot. Same thing for rest areas. Same thing for truck parking operators. And of course, NIMBY in the zoning process is no one wants truck parking near them, but everyone wants something delivered in 2 hours or 2 days. And ultimately that requires warehouses, and that requires truck parking. So these restraints are really what builds up to have the immense truck parking shortage we have today.
Yeah, for sure. So Chris, at the CSEMP show this year, you came up and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this." Tell me what motivated you, because this slide talks to a lot of this. So tell me a little bit what motivated you to say, we need to talk.
Well, I just always recognized the need, and this slide talks about almost an hour of a driver's time. I mean, you put the cost of a driver, the tractor trailer, all the hourly costs associated with that, the limited number of hours that a driver is available to drive, and he's spending almost an hour finding truck parking is a problem. I can't tell you how many trucking companies really tried to avoid truck stops because of the accidents in truck stops. If you're able to find a parking spot in a truck stop, it's not an easy park. I mean, they're crammed in there because of the shortage, and hence, there's accidents that happen, and it's a real problem. So, no, I'm passionate about it. I think that being in both the transportation business and the warehousing business, I just think the warehouse owners offer a great opportunity if they have excess yard space or even dock space at night that they're not using and can offer a spot. It's a win-win.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And we're going to jump into all those details to show you the impact that warehousing has on alleviating the problem and we'll outline the cost. So thank you, Evan, for kicking this off. All right, so next one is Chris, and I want you to kind of talk about this one, because this was something that you brought up to us when we were kind of thinking about what we wanted to talk about on this webinar. And you said, man,
in transportation, the number one responsibility that a carrier has is the safety to the public and to their drivers. Yeah. And, I still drive alongside the highways, the interstates today, and you see trucks pulled over on the shoulder of the road. And, right. I've seen videos from insurance companies over the years of just all the accidents that happen on that. And, it ends up costing the, lives. And right. So I just think when I came up with this and wanted to talk to you guys about it, safety was always, the first thing we did at our company. We talked about it, we practiced it. And I just thought this is a safety issue as well. And I think that's something that we can help with.
Yeah, for sure. So Evan, talk about why we like to utilize this slide, even though it's obviously a terrible situation.
Yeah, ultimately, it's one of thousands of situations like this, unfortunately, where drivers were parked on the on-ramp of a rest area, and you commonly see drivers parked on on-ramps, off-ramps, shoulders, which leads to, terrible accidents where lives, in a lot of cases, are lost. I know there's hundreds of fatalities a year due to drivers being parked in inadequate places, and there's tens of thousands of non-fatal collisions a year, which is really huge. So ultimately, we got to get drivers safely, legally parked.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big part of the issue. And anytime they're not parked in a legal spot, it creates a massive liability for all of the customers that go to warehouses. And so this is why we're talking to warehouse providers. So thanks again for joining us on this. Sorry, let's go to the next one. I'll talk about this one. This is one that I present to fleets out there, because most fleets don't really understand the dollar cost that is lost because of inefficient parking or a lack of what we call strategic parking. And this is a great piece. This is back from our research piece that we commissioned Transport Futures to do. And this just shows you, and Evan kind of alluded to it in the beginning, on what is lost. And we broke it down in 3 categories. Driver turnover, that's big. Cost a lot to hire drivers. Everybody knows that. Any loss of profitability for a fleet affects the warehouse, because the less trucks that come in, it's the worse for the warehouses. Super important for all of transportation. Circuity, how far do they have to drive in order to find a parking place? And then lost time against their hours of service that, by the way, never stop. They never stop adding up. Those hours are going to move no matter what. So you look at the bottom figure, $125 billion. And the big one is the one on the far right, where it shows the cost per load, $247 average per load. I mentioned to a fleet owner in Chicago earlier this year, what would it mean if you got back $247 per load? He goes, well, I wouldn't be in the red, I'd be in the black. Yeah. And that's really important. So the two comments on the bottom, it says 79% of the time, drivers on the road, the 4.2 million drivers that are on the road, do not find a accommodating rest spot. Now, they're just not available. And the big one is the very bottom bullet point. 2/3 of drivers find informal or unauthorized, and I'm going to put the air quotes on this, that's illegal parking. All right, so you can see the massive problem it is in the marketplace from a standpoint of exposure, risk exposure, and dollars lost, which is very important to in relatability to warehouse owners. So it is a huge opportunity in the market to solve a big problem. All right. So Chris, this is a great favorite picture of yours. Talk a little bit about why you love this picture.
So, and it also ties with one of the questions that one of our members, Carol Kipe, has put in. What is the correct zoning for truck parking? But warehouses are zoned industrial. And as Evan pointed out earlier, it's very difficult to get zoning today for truck parking, truck stops. Warehouses are already in an industrial zone. No one wants, a truck idling in front of their bedroom window. So, this opportunity that we have, where all of our warehouses are industrial zones, either have additional parking on site or additional dock parking that they're not utilizing, offers a great opportunity for truck parking.
Yeah, well, certainly. And there's great advocacy going on in the marketplace. We're a part of that. I know most everybody in transportation, whether you're a warehouse owner, whether you're a transportation owner, in any segment of it, we're all for the advocacy of more free parking out there. And it's a slow process. And so we want to make sure as a company that we're providing as fast access as possible because of the profitability and the safety returns on it. So super important. Carol, we'll definitely get to answering the questions at the end. Let's keep rolling here. All right. So this is a great slide, Chris, that you were talking about just the sheer numbers. So talk to us about this.
So this is just the size of the warehousing and storage market. I mean, it's a big business. And, with that comes a lot of real estate and acreage. And I just wanted to show that, the viewers, the scale of, there's private warehouses, there's public warehouses and contract warehouses. But when you bundle them all up, it's a very large business.
Yeah, it's been shocking to me. The Amazon effect on warehousing has been incredible. It's been really beneficial for warehouse owners because it's created a 4 times larger need for warehousing in America than previously had. So it's a great time to be in the business because there's continued growth in that. And I love the way this slide goes all the way out to 2033. The appetite's not slowing down, Chris.
Yep. No, it's a growing industry.
Absolutely. So Evan, talk a little bit about this, about why that yellow box has such impact into the solution for the parking capacity in the marketplace.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, when you look at solving this problem, let's look at the places where there's the most capacity. And when we look at this chart, it's glaring that shippers, warehouses has a ton of capacity that could essentially solve the truck parking issue by unlocking that capacity at those warehouses. 15 million spaces out there, that a lot of which has yet to be unlocked and available, publicly to drivers, owner operators, to be able to get safely, legally parked. So it's a massive opportunity for any shippers and warehouse owners out there to be able to open up those spaces for drivers and owner operators who really, really need it. I think most warehouse owners can resonate, just like Chris is, with the broader issue and the safety issues with that. And I think it's really an obligation to open up those spaces to those drivers, whether they're using you for your facility or opening up drivers just passing through. But this could have huge impact very quickly on the truck parking shortage in the U.S. Even if we unlocked 10% of that capacity, it would be a huge impact.
Chris, talk a little bit about this, because I know that this sheer number alone was part of what motivated you to say, hey, we've got to let warehousing owners and distribution facility owners know that there is an opportunity in the market for them. Talk a little bit about
Yeah, Brent, these are challenging times. With the economy, it's very difficult to go to a customer right now and say, I need a price increase. So, these smart warehouses are looking at, first of all, cutting costs, but where can we get some added revenue? And, I said, look outside your front door. If you've got availability in your parking lot or at your docks, these numbers will show there's a need for it. And working with the Truck Parking Club, the warehouse can get some added revenue for an asset underutilized, and it could be a win for the truck parking. The other thing is, I remember in the warehousing business, we had so many no-shows, 20%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we booked 100 inbound appointments. There was 80 that showed and a 20% no-show. So, having, that because of, truck parking and a lot of issues that drivers run into, it affects the service. And then most importantly, arrested driver is a safe driver. And
for sure.
That's what you want. So I think this chart shows that there's great opportunity for shippers and warehouse 3PLs to at least take a look at that and see if it's a fit for their operations.
Yeah, for sure. Where there's a structure to operate within. Certainly. Yeah, fantastic. All right, so Evan, let's kind of transition into the parking challenges, and then we'll talk about some case studies next on the exact on warehouses that actually are utilizing the truck parking opportunity out there or maximizing that. So talk a little bit about those parking challenges, Evan.
Yeah, so ATRI does their annual study, and the issue of truck parking is always on that list. I was at ATA MCE this year, and truck parking was second on that list when Rebecca Brewster announced it, and fourth overall. So ultimately, it's typically within the top one or two problems for drivers, and typically within the top five for carriers. So just a glaring issue within the industry that ATRI and Rebecca Brewster actively track. So as we discussed, there's a need for 1.7 million more spaces out there, and we know that there's a lot more spaces than that at shippers and warehouses across the U.S. that could easily meet the current demand needed to solve the truck parking shortage. As we spoke on, drivers on average daily spend 56 minutes driving around looking for parking and wasting 15 miles. As Brent mentioned, over $200 per load wasted by drivers. This problem costs serious money to the trucking industry annually. And through our study, there's 23 million parking spaces out there that are suitable, and about 15 million of those spaces exist around the warehouses. So, and I think a pretty crazy stat, only 2% are available at this moment.
Right.
And a lot of which Truck Parking Club is unlocked. But still have a long way to go.
Great opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
No, I was just saying that offers a great opportunity for the warehouse.
Yeah, this marketplace continues. Appreciate you saying that, Chris. This marketplace continues to evolve. I've been in the marketplace 30 years. I know, Chris, you may have been in longer than that, but it continues to evolve, and technology and access is creating opportunities across the board for different revenue streams. And this is kind of what we're talking about today. It's like, where are there new revenue streams, no matter where you play in the marketplace? And so I think from warehousing standpoint, there's not a lot of new opportunities. And so this is kind of what we're talking about, where there's opportunities for new revenue streams. All right, so let's talk about the marketplace, the actual overall marketplace on the coverage now. And then even includes the bottom point there about how many warehouses are actually involved in the network presently, Evan.
Okay. Yeah. So Truck Parking Club, we're a two-sided marketplace. So we are connecting property owners and businesses like the warehouses that we've discussed with hundreds of thousands of drivers, dispatchers, owner-operators, fleet managers, brokers, which a lot of people don't know that brokers actively use us as well. And of course, the carriers. It's quite simple. Property owners, warehouse owners list their property on Truck Parking Club, and a driver goes onto our app or website and books that parking in real time, whether it's for an hour, a day, multiple days, a week, a month. It's really up to that driver and to the property owner on how they want to list their space. And probably most importantly, we leverage a licensing model. We know that warehouses capacity may come and go for their truck parking based on their needs and their customers' needs. There's no long-term commitments. There's no mandatory leases for the property owners. So there's a ton of flexibility. So it's really on-demand parking that you can use as flex truck parking whenever you have that available capacity, when you have space in your yard or you have open dock space available. So today we have over 3,400 locations. I think we're going to pass 3,500 in the next day or two across 49 states. That's 55,000 truck parking spaces across multiple different categories. And today we have 206 warehouses with 3,274 spaces. 3,274 spaces looks quite small compared to 15 million. So we definitely have a long way to go.
Great.
Or there's a great opportunity, right, Chris?
Yeah, exactly.
No doubt. The thing
those numbers will change after this webinar. But
well, certainly I know that trucks go there. This is a natural conclusion to where you try to solve a problem. Where are the trucks already going? Where's the variance is already there for trucks to park? There's no barriers other than a qualified sort of organization or a system to build around it. So let's move to warehouse. We're going to move into show you guys some of the warehouse property members and some comments from them and kind of how it works across the system there. So Evan, jump in there and let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I think we've hit on these points decently already, but of course you can gain ancillary income on this unused space, whether it's yard space, parking at dock doors, and the tractor trailer spaces you have across your lot. Ultimately, this can result in having fewer detention charges and more on-time performance because you actually give parking capacity at your location. I know, something since I've started Truck Parking Club and before that, shippers and warehouses commonly having to close off their yards because there's just no way to maintain that parking. There's no way to really understand who's parking there. And so it becomes quite difficult to run that truck parking. But we've, now created a solution where we make it very easy to formalize that parking at your lot and run a truck parking business really turnkey with really no additional work, and you're just leveraging assets that are sitting there unused. We have 24/7 customer service, which is what is part of it, helps make it turnkey for warehouse owners. You guys aren't taking those late night calls or anything of that nature. We handle all that. It's all staffed by former drivers, so they understand the issues that the drivers parking there are going through, and we resolve most all issues that come through. And as the property member, as we call them, You can adjust your availability and pricing as you see fit. As we talked about, it's really on demand. So if you have 50 spaces today, and for whatever reason, you get a customer come in and they need to park 30 trailers for something outside of Truck Parking Club, by all means, you just change that availability. We're not trying to hold you to, acting as if we have a lease or ownership on your property. And ultimately, you can see, as I mentioned, you can have visibility on who's parking on your lot, how long are they going to be there, and be able to really manage and maintain your lot in a way that wasn't really possible before.
Yeah, so we're presenting a lot of information because we want you to, obviously we're thankful for that you're listening today, but also for you to be able to get a copy of this and send it to anybody within your organization that can we're covering a lot of details because of that. We want you to be able to utilize it to talk in your organizations about that. All right, so next slide. Let's go to the next one. All right, so warehouse earnings. Let's talk about what's in it for me, sort of what's in it for them, Evan. So talk a little bit about the actual return of the passive income that can be experienced.
Yeah, so today we have 206 warehouses across Truck Parking Club. We have over 3,400 locations, but in the last 30 days, at those 206 warehouses, we've had trucker members book there thousands of times in the last 30 days. And a location, a Truck Parking Club location can be one space at a warehouse, but it also can be hundreds of spaces. And each of those spaces can be worth hundreds of dollars per month for that warehouse owner that's now sitting there unused, underutilized. It's worth hundreds of dollars a month. And ultimately, it isn't worth hundreds of dollars a month where you're having to spend a lot of time managing it either, because all the turnkey tools we provide, like our customer service, like all of our back end reporting, the ability to have visibility who's parking on your yard, all the turnkey solutions you need, access controls as well. So only being able to enter the location through a automatic gate with a open gate button through the Truck Parking Club app. Really all the tools you need to have a self-sustaining truck parking business without putting any additional work on workers at the warehouse. And our top performing property in the last 30 days at a warehouse did over $12,000. Ultimately, that's $12,000 that's net on assets that are unused, that are just sitting there making zero revenue. Ultimately, a way to think about it is, what is it making you today, which is probably zero, and what would it cost you in how much revenue would you have to make $10,000, $12,000 in a month net? I think that's a good way to think about evaluating it from a shipper warehouse 3PL 4PL perspective. Is how much work and gross revenue do you have to make to make $12,000?
Yeah, that's
I think
Kevin, I was going to ask you to jump in there, Chris, on that one. Yeah.
No, I think every day is different for a warehouseman. So the ability that, today you have 50 spots, but then, the customer takes 30 and then you only have 20 tomorrow. The ability to go and make those changes, I think is very, very invaluable because, one thing I've learned in the business is, when you come in the morning every day, you're going to be faced a different challenge. And so that's a great feature that the app has.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that part of it, because that made me think of this, which is this marketplace is just beginning to scale. All right. So the number that parks today, it increases every single month. We see that in our data. You're going to see that at your locations, because where there's now predictable locations, you're going to have more and more parking. So as all of trucking starts to use strategic parking, the opportunity is only going to grow and grow and grow. We know that as a business. And I think, Chris, this is probably kind of what was running through your head on, wait a minute, this thing's just starting. What does it look like a year from now, or 2 years from now, 3 years from now, where there's 50, 75% of the 4.2 million trucks and 12 million trailers and 25 million plus containers parking and positioning and everywhere else where there's opportunities. So, all right, let's go to the next one on a case study. This is an actual location. So if you wouldn't mind walking us through this, Evan.
Yeah. So Logistics Plus reached out and was talking about all the truck and trailer parking spaces that they had, and thought there might be an opportunity to monetize those spaces. I think this was could be 18 or 24 months ago, and we onboarded 9 of their locations, and they saw a lot of success quite quickly for brand new locations where they got over 100 bookings and earned $13,000 in 60 days from going live. So that's spinning that demand up in 60 days at their locations where they were making $0 on those underutilized, unused assets in their lot. Ultimately, we do this, with thousands of property owners and hundreds of warehouses. And as I mentioned earlier, every single one of these spaces you have sitting in your lot are worth hundreds of dollars. And this case study with Logistics Plus, which is a very large entity that we were able to work with very easily, they're now able to monetize that extra space. So, if we can work with a company like Logistics Plus, which is quite large by most metrics, and integrate within their operations and run it smoothly, I'm confident we can do it with shippers, warehouses, and 3PLs of all kinds.
Yeah, for sure. So Chris, what when you think about like the warehouse, the leader in the warehouse out there, what do you feel like is like one of the major hindrances to a warehouse location? Thinking about should I do this? Should I not do this? What do you think one of the major hindrances is?
Well, I think how it interacts with their existing business. Their primary business is always going to come first. So, they'll take a look at that. There's always the concern of, damage to the property, or I think I brought this up with you guys before, and you have a whole rating system with if somebody, dumps some, trash on the property and that, it doesn't reflect well. So maybe you can just talk how you guys handle that.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to that. Evan, jump in there.
Yeah, for sure. So that's part of the reason for us having our customer care team 24/7 in situations where you at the end of the day, this is logistics, this is trucking, and things do happen. But if you have a situation where a driver throws out trash, we have great relationships with our trucker members, and we have hundreds of thousands of trucker members at this point. Just letting us know about that situation where a trucker member behaved in not a great manner, we will reach out to them and rectify the situation and make sure that it doesn't happen again. There's also a review system within our platform to be able to review trucker members, and trucker members are able to review property members, which creates a lot of fairness within the marketplace. And then on top of that, more severe things like damage, like hitting a fence or hitting a gate is not uncommon in our industry. We provide $25,000 damage protection. That if a driver hits a fence and for whatever reason is unable to pay for those damages or refuses to pay for those damages, we will cover up to $25,000. And I can say, fortunately, we rarely, if ever, have to use. It's less than a handful of times across hundreds of thousands of trucker members ever had to use the $25,000 damage protection, just because we have great relationships with our trucker members. They want to use our service. Things happen. And we, figure out the situation with the driver, the owner operator, the carrier, and get it resolved and move on. So we really have all the tools you need to handle kind of those edge case situations, and we'll work with you on those edge case situations, probably most importantly, and make sure that they get resolved in a timely manner.
Yeah, it's the exception, but I think I just wanted the warehouse owner to know that you've got to have it covered.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're into Q&A and so let's do the key takeaways. But then I got a couple of things I want you to hit on, Evan and Chris, and for you to comment on that. So let's talk about. So, and I talked a little bit about this. The first key takeaway is that it solves an existing problem. And actually, I didn't talk much about this, but I do want to talk a little bit about this on how it solves an existing problem. And Chris, I'd love for you to talk about it as well, because I've talked to a lot of shippers over the last 9 months, and many of them say, "Oh, I don't have a need for parking, or I don't really want to do parking." And I talk about the inbound freight that comes in to their facility, and they always roll their eyes and they say, "Oh my gosh, it's just so difficult for us because we would like to solve the problem of where those trucks actually park." Some of them could park at our facilities. Some of them we'd like to have strategic positioning for them as they come in, as they're slotted to come in at their appointed times. And so, Chris, talk a little bit about that, because I mean, you've been in the middle of this for a long time. So talk a little bit about how it solves existing problem.
No, I just mentioned earlier, in all of our operations, there was a certain 10 to 20% no show. And
Right.
we used to do is we would position carriers on property. And then if there was a no show, there was a driver available close by to jump in that spot. I think that's what this can offer, the warehouses, that they can get some added revenue, but also, if they want to keep their buildings as fully productive as possible, they can slide a truck in for a no-show. And
Right.
but yeah, I think that's an important element of it, Brent.
Yeah, for sure. At least it seemed to be one of the ones I talked to. Talk a little bit about the second bullet point, Evan, how they're, again, I know you've talked about it a couple times, but kind of just reiterate how well positioned warehouses are to help solve the parking demand.
Yeah, and I want to just comment on the first bullet. So, and ultimately, opening up that capacity for drivers. I mean, we've all driven through the industrial parks and seen drivers parked up and down the curbs of the entire industrial park, because there's, for whatever reason, the warehouse or the shipper has just had a hard time in the past, or just decided they're not going to allow drivers to park on their property. Ultimately, nobody really wants those drivers parked there, whether it is, the shipper that has the goods, or it's pedestrians that are driving by. And having an option for them, as Brent alluded to, is crucial ultimately for the cargo, for the driver, for pedestrians, all the above. And that capacity exists. And I think, just rolling into the second bullet point, that's why they're, shippers and warehouses are very well positioned for the demand, because a lot of times that demand is right outside your door, and ultimately you're giving them a great option to park safely, to park legally, and really alleviate a lot of the issues that can come from parking in a inadequate, unsuitable spot. So just perfectly positioned for that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, great points there. And then the last bullet point on unrealized revenue stream on existing assets. You own the warehouse, or you're leasing the property the warehouse is on. So there's a passive revenue stream or that you can realize. And Chris, talk a little bit about that, because there's not a whole lot of ways in which you can create revenue streams for warehouses, at least from my take on that. What's your take on creating new revenue streams for warehouses and distribution facilities?
Well, I think good warehouses, Brent, they do everything they can within the building to create additional revenue.
Right.
What I wanted to make them aware of is something they may have not looked at, is the parking lot, and or additional dock doors. Maybe certain buildings are not running 24-hour operations, and they've got dock doors. A trucking company would love to be able to back into, protect the back doors of
for sure,
especially a high value cargo load. So I think a warehouse really is well positioned to fit that need. And it's just, Evan gave the case study, and as I said, when I tapped you on the shoulder at CSCMP, this thing is just beginning, and there's a bright, so the revenues are only going to go up as, warehouse and take advantage of this, and your app and your technology will continue to get better. And so I'm excited. I think it's a great opportunity, and we're going to get the message out as much as we can through the American chain of warehouses. But I think this was a good format.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, for that. So let's jump into a couple questions. I got a couple of them here. I've got Carol. Let's see. Maria asked the question first. She says, "Are these parking spots for trucks, or I think the bigger question is, what all equipment can park there?" Evan?
Is this the question? Are there any infrastructure requirements?
No. Just parking spots for trucks. Like, what type of equipment? You can
I
talk
see
about
it now. It popped up.
Certainly, I had that question as well, which is, how do you help with infrastructure requirements, or how do you coach? For spots?
Yeah. So I think it'll hit both. So ultimately, our locations on Truck Parking Club can be gravel lots that are suitable for drivers to pull into, safely park, and then exit the location, all the way up through a high security facility like you would see at some shippers with 24/7 security, electric fences, barbed wire fences,
Right.
and then everything in between. So it's really, there are different demands for a driver any given day, depending on what they're hauling, depending on what their objective is, what they need to do. So there aren't infrastructure requirements outside of being a place for a driver to safely, legally, suitably parked. Of course, the better infrastructure is going to get more demand at their location. Like what you see at a lot of warehouses is typically going to get more demand because of a lot of times the security, the gates, the fencing, the cameras, the security, the lighting.
Industrial area, yeah.
Yeah, that typically that will warrant more demand and perhaps a little bit of a premium on pricing because of the what we call amenities that they provide. But ultimately, it just needs to be a suitable place to park.
Yeah, fantastic. So I got another question here. I think this is a good one. We get this question a lot. It's from a good friend of mine, Candace Holowicki. So Candace asked, does a no-show still have to pay for a reserved space?
Yeah, so all of our truck parking is non-refundable when you book. And the reason for that is because when you book that space, if you show up or not, that inventory is gone in our system. So just like a hotel, just like an Airbnb, if you book that space and then you no show and you don't let us know that you had a breakdown or something of that nature, you've taken up that space from a driver who would have wanted it ultimately. So our core policy is non-refundable. If there's an act of God type situation, we do look into those situations and see if we can offer a refund. But at the end of the day, what we say is make sure you need the space and make sure you're going to be there.
Right.
And on top of that, we are coming out with some really cool options for refunds on no shows. I can't talk about it too much today, but there's some really cool options we're coming out with that will give you some flexibility around those no shows and things of that nature. Not dissimilar to when you book a hotel or a flight these days, you're able to pay something to make sure that if you are a no show, you can get refunded. Not exactly like that, but something similar that we're working on to make sure we take care of our trucker members.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm going to go to Nick's question, Mr. Nick Pasidi. And he says, what's the average cost for a truck and trailer parking space per day? And then we get that question a lot too. So,
yeah. So ultimately, across our entire platform, it's about $20 per day, but it definitely varies widely by market. You can be in the Midwest and it's $10 a day, $8 a day is not uncommon. But then you can be in the Northeast, you can be in Southern California, you can be in South Florida, where the demand is great and the supply is little. And you can see sky high rates. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we are not setting prices on these properties. The market is setting prices on these properties. The property owner has a right to price the property at what they want. Ultimately, though, at the end of the day, you can price it at whatever you want. If it's too high, people aren't going to pay for it. Drivers are not going to pay for it. So ultimately, what we say is the market sets the price at the locations, because you can set it at whatever you want to set it, but drivers aren't going to book it. So good luck. So we say that really at the end of the day, the market is what you need to look at and pricing.
For sure. So Carol, I believe her last name is pronounced, is it Cup? That's my yes. Yeah. Kipe.
Yep.
And so she asked, she's got two questions. She's actually got three of them on here, but I'm going to ask you a back-to-back, Evan. What's the correct zoning for truck parking? Number one, and you alluded to that a little bit earlier. And then she's got one second one, a last one down here. It says, do bookings indicate if there is hazmat freight on a trailer or if a reefer unit?
Yeah. So what is the correct zoning? I'll hit that quickly. Every municipality has their own zoning. It could be I-3, I-4, I-5, M1, M2. every municipality has their own really ordinances around that. So ultimately, it's going to depend on your municipality, which I think there's we could do a webinar on that alone, because there's a lot of nuance. There's there's some really interesting things that happen in local municipalities that I don't think are quite right around giving drivers the ability to park in suitable places. So, but we could do a webinar on that some other time. And then actually on that, I was talking to someone and they were saying that in California now they're fighting warehouses on having truck parking on their lots. And it's like, that's crazy to me. It's just hard for me to even understand that. But anyway, so on to the next one.
The next one was, do bookings indicate if there is a hazmat, if there's hazmat freight on the trailer or if a reefer unit?
Yeah. So every property member location is going to say whether or not hazmat is allowed. So if you're a warehouse owner and you say, I don't want to mess with hazmat, no problem. You just mark on your listing during onboarding. You'll talk with an onboarding specialist. You'll say, I don't want hazmat. They'll ask you, and then you'll say, I don't want hazmat in my location. Then your location will be marked as hazmat not being allowed, and then hazmat drivers won't book there. But ultimately, to your core question, yes, every single booking will tell you, make, model, trailer type, trailer number, truck number, and then they have options to get even more detailed with that information.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, I don't see any more questions in the queue, and I think we're right at time. So, Evan, thank you for doing this, and Chris, I want you to close us out and just talk about talk to warehouse owners and talk about kind of what you see and what for the opportunity here, and then just close us out for us today. I mean, I would appreciate that.
Well, guys, thanks again for your time and for doing this. We're going to take this and put it on the American Chain of Warehouses website for future review. I'll be happy to answer any questions from warehousemen around the country that want to get firsthand experience or some other additional information. But I just wanted to get the word out. As I said, I think you guys are early on this. I like the concept. And I just wanted to get people aware of it, to, at least check into it. So appreciate the opportunity for the webinar, and we'll try to promote it as much as we can on our end, because as I said, it's a win for safety, it's a win for warehousemen, and a win for truck parking.
Well, we are indebted to you, my friend, and we really appreciate you supporting what's great for transportation, what's great for the supply chain. So for everybody who attended today, thank you so much. Evan and my contact information there. On the right-hand side, you'll see a QR code. You can scan that for specific information on how truck parking can work with your warehouse. So just use that QR code. We'll make this deck available as well. This live webinar will be distributed to everybody, and also the actual presentation deck as well for you to utilize it. If there's any way we can help you, please reach out to us. We're here anytime you need us. And Chris, again, from Evan and I and all the Truck Parking Club team, thank you so much for supporting what we're doing.
No, thank you, guys. It was a great opportunity.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.